You know what? I'm in a positive mood at the moment, and maybe it's to do with the fact that I've seen Liverpool recently win a 10th league title by using a bunch of kids like children of the corn to do so. Or maybe it's because you guys seem to be really enjoying the list videos, but either way, I thought I'd try and take a more positive approach this week and look on the brighter side of the Premier League. As previously mentioned, Liverpool winning another League Cup has put the conversation firmly on Jurgen Klopp and where he ranks amongst the Premier League's greatest, and while I adore that man and would do anything to keep him at Liverpool until the day he can no longer walk on his own and we have to push him around like some sort of German self-sustaining cyborg, I don't believe he is the greatest ever manager the Premier League has ever seen. And that got me thinking about just who were the best, because let's face it, if last week's list was about the creme de la crap, then this week's list is the cream of the crop. Now let's go watch it rise to the top. Welcome to Good Sport Reviews. My name is Lewis and this is my pick for the top 10 greatest ever Premier League managers. Quick criteria for this list, because it is going to be a bit of a long one. It doesn't have to consist of only people who have won the Premier League title, otherwise it'd be fairly self-explanatory, let's be real. This is people who have had a massive impact in the Premier League, whether it be for one club or multiple clubs, and if they did well at one club but awful at another, that will come into effect. With that being said, honourable mention Claudio Ranieri. It's harsh, I know, and already I can hear the thumbs down button being pressed quicker than you are in bed, but let me explain. What Ranieri did with Leicester in 15-16 by defying their 5,000 to 1 odds will never ever be repeated again, and it is the single greatest sporting achievement, in my personal opinion, in history. However, despite that incredible success, the man loved by all had also awful spells at Fulham in their relegation campaign back in 18-19 and with Watford in 21-22, and that brings it down so much, but also reminds us of just how spectacular achievement with the Foxes was back in 15-16. Number 10, Sir Kenny Dalglish. Short but beautiful, much like you are in bed, is the best way to describe King Kenny's time in Premier League management. He managed Blackburn, Newcastle and Liverpool and had varying degrees of success at each of them. He reached 4th place with Blackburn in 1992 during the inaugural Premier League season, despite Alan Shearer being out for half the season following a British record transfer fee of 3.5 million, which, let's face it, nowadays wouldn't pay for Mbappe's breakfast. He then went on to finish second behind Manchester United the next season before finally overthrowing the Red Devils and leading his side to the Premier League title on a dramatic final day of the season, despite his side losing to Liverpool after Manchester United lost to West Ham in London. He then went on to manage Newcastle, where he achieved a 2nd place finish and led the side into the Champions League, where they picked up a historic 3-2 victory over Barcelona. And he even took the side to an FA Cup final against Arsenal. Shame about the result. Sorry, Alan Shearer, once again. He did make some questionable transfers, selling Les Ferdinand and David Ginola and replacing them with a 36 Ian Rush and a 34-year-old John Barnes, but he still only finished as low as 13th place. Bad at the time? Yes, but by modern standards, not dreadful for Newcastle. He then went on a break like Ross and Rachel and became Liverpool manager in 2011, where, yes, we finished 8th, and yes, we sold Fernando Torres to Chelsea, but we also won a League Cup, reached an FA Cup final and signed Luis Suarez, who went on to become one of the greatest hit players in Liverpool history. So, swings and roundabouts, I guess. Number 9, David Moyes. As much as I don't want to admit it, David Moyes is a Premier League legend in management, and what makes me a little bit ill, I won't lie, but you can't deny that what he's done at multiple clubs is pretty remarkable. Okay, yes, he took over at Manchester United following the departure of Sir Alex Ferguson, who, spoiler alert, is number 1 on this list, because of course he is, and set about taking the squad with a higher average age than a retirement home into the depths of mid-table mediocrity. And you could argue that his time at Sunderland in 2016 was so bad, it's funny. I mean, look at the points total. But the work he did at Everton to take them from the slums of mediocrity to fighting for European football is nothing short of incredible. He managed to achieve a 4th place finish with the side in 2004-2005 and reached an FA Cup final in the 08-09 season with players like Marouane Fellaini, Leighton Baines, Phil Jagielka becoming figureheads of a side who were always on the precipice of success during the Premier League era. He signed legends of the club like Tim Cahill and Mikel Arteta. Yes, towards the end, fans started to turn on him and started calling him Dithering Dave of all things. But after the mess he went through at Manchester United and Sunderland, he was able to take a step back and return to the Premier League with West Ham, where he twice avoided relegation with the bubble blowers and even led the club to a Europa League final and won them their first piece of European silverware by winning the Europa Conference League. And yes, some people may view it about as valuable as a turd wrapped in tinfoil. It's still a remarkable achievement from a man who many made out to be a laughingstock of the managerial scene. Number 8, Rafa Benitez. A lot to get through here, so we better get going. The man who led Liverpool to the most remarkable Champions League victory in 2005, sorry Man United, an FA Cup in 2006, and challenged both Sir Alex Ferguson and Jose Mourinho for the title with players in the squad like Jermaine Pennant and David and Gogg's dark timeline, deserves a spot on this list, and while some may say it's biased having him rank 8th on the list, to that I say it's my list and I'll put Max from Max and Paddy wherever I want on this list. So deal with that. Rafa came in and set about turning Liverpool into Premier League title contenders, and that's exactly what he did during the 08-09 season, where he pushed Liverpool to second place behind Manchester United. And while his Fox speech may have derailed the club's season ever so slightly, it's still remarkable what he did with players like Steven Gerrard, Xabi Alonso and Fernando Torres, turning them into absolute world beaters. And while his time at Liverpool might be ruined ever so slightly by his final season at the club with a 7th place finish and the sale of Xabi Alonso massively affecting the club's form, there can be no denying what he did on Merseyside during his tenure there. He returned to the Premier League in 2016, Newcastle, during a time when the club was sinking faster than the Titanic with lead in its engine, and while he couldn't prevent relegation, he still went on a 6-game unbeaten run and beat Tottenham 5-1 on the final day of the season, remaining as manager and achieved promotion at the first time of asking, and turned Newcastle United into a solid Premier League outfit until Steve Bruce came in, and he did so with players that had about as much right to be there as I do in World's Strongest Man. He left following disagreements with Mike Ashley and wouldn't return to the league until 2021 with Everton, where I suppose the less said the better, but there's no denying Rafa's impact that he's had on the Premier League. Number 7, Carlo Ancelotti. I think I speak for everyone when I say that Carlo Ancelotti is one of the greatest ever managers, not just in Premier League history, but in football history as a whole. He's had success at Juventus, AC Milan, PSG, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, and that leads us to the English game, where Chelsea, who were still eating Ben & Jerry's and drinking wine while crying in the bath following their breakup with Jose Mourinho, were trying to find the man to replace the Portuguese. And that's when they spotted Ancelotti across the dance floor and proceeded to invite him back to their house for a drink. Anyway, the man who would win league titles in 5 different countries took over at Stamford Bridge and led the side to their first league title in 4 years, with his side winning the double that season by also winning the FA Cup against Portsmouth. And when I say Chelsea won the league, I mean they did to the other teams in the league what Walt did to Crazy 8 in Breaking Bad. Manchester United finished 1 point behind them, but they thrashed Wigan 8-0 on the final day of the season, beat Manchester United both home and away, smashed Sunderland 7-2, and he got players like Drogba, Lampard and John Terry playing some of the greatest football of their careers. He may have been sacked the following season, during a match by the way, sorry Carlo, but his side still won the Community Shield against Manchester United, and they still only finished 2nd place, 9 points behind first, and at the time of his sacking he had the 3rd best win percentage behind only Sir Alex Ferguson and Jose Mourinho. He then managed Everton, where he got them playing fantastic football, signed players like James Rodriguez and Allen, and took them to a 10th place finish, which compared to recent seasons is a fantastic achievement. One of the prime examples of shining brightest for the quickest time possible. Number 6, Antonio Conte. It might be a bit of a controversial choice, but controversy follows Antonio Conte like a seagull follows someone holding chips on a beach. Nevertheless, while Conte's time at Tottenham was a bit of a roller coaster ride, if the ride was plummeting to its doom, his time at Chelsea deserves to go down in Premier League history as one of the greatest individual seasons ever. His first season in charge in 16-17, he set about bringing in star talents such as N'Golo Conte and David Luiz. Hello there, which proved to be strokes of genius. His side implemented a 3-4-3 formation and got players like Victor Moses, of all people, playing like they were prime Maldini. Side equaled the record for the most consecutive wins in a season, fewest draws in a season, and broke the record at the time for the most wins in the season with 30. 30 wins in 38, 93 points achieved in total, which at the time was the second highest points total in Premier League history. They thumped sides in emphatic fashion, with their only defeats coming at the hands of Liverpool, Arsenal, Tottenham, Palace and Man United, and the side played some of the best possession-based football the league had ever seen at this point, and he became the first manager to win 3 Premier League Manager of the Month awards, in a row. The following season, there was a bit of a noticeable dip, that can't be denied, but even despite that, they still went on to win the FA Cup, beating Manchester United in the final, and even though he was dismissed following this campaign, the side haven't came close to achieving the same levels of success since. At Tottenham, it started off well, with the side going on an 8-game unbeaten run at the start of the season, but Conte's need for success and volatile nature made the working relationship with the board difficult. Players, fans, and everyone involved just agreed it was a nightmare. It's true. And his explosive press conference after the 3-0 draw against Southampton, where he criticised all the above, it made it impossible for him to stay. An argument can be made for him not being so high in this list, but what he achieved at Chelsea cannot be overlooked. Number 5, Jurgen Klopp. I just need to say right now, I adore this man. Jurgen Klopp has single-handedly given me some of the greatest memories of my life, and trying to write them all down here is almost impossible, but I'll do my best to give the legend the respect he deserves. Following the departure of Brendan Rodgers in 2015, Liverpool were looking for a man who could develop a long-term strategy and plan for the club. Other potential candidates were star-spangled names like Frank de Boer and checks notes Ronald Koeman. Methinks not. The club appointed Jurgen Klopp, and what else can you say, really? I mean, the man single-handedly took Liverpool from the dark days of Balotelli and Markovic to the likes of Mo Salah and Sadio Mane, which is the equivalent of trading in your unicycle for a Ferrari. He transformed not only the players on the pitch by bringing in the likes of Van Dijk, Alisson, Robertson, Fabinho, Wijnaldum and much more, but he also changed the mindset of the fans around Liverpool, who went from fighting for top 4, poorly might I add, to fighting for the Premier League title on a regular basis. With the side ending seasons with 97 and 99 points, winning a Champions League and reaching 2 other finals, an FA Cup, 2 League Cups and our first ever Premier League title, we awoke the sleeping giant that is Liverpool. And some people may say this is bias, and to that I say everyone shows favouritism to their loved ones. Jurgen Klopp's time at Liverpool is the stuff of legend that is up there with the likes of Bill Shankly and Bob Paisley. From doubters to believers, indeed. Number 4, Jose Mourinho, the special one, the Portuguese supernova, the man with every possible plan. It is Jose Mourinho. Undeniably, one of the biggest moments ever in Premier League history is when Chelsea appointed the young, up-and-coming Jose as their manager back in 2004. This appointment single-handedly changed the power dynamic of the Premier League. Up until this point, the league belonged to Sir Alex Ferguson and Arsene Wenger. But in came Mourinho, who said, no, hold my wine, I've got this. And he set about creating one of the greatest teams the Premier League had ever seen, and arguably Europe had ever seen, let's face it. He went on to overthrow the status quo and won his Chelsea side the Premier League title with an unprecedented 95 points, which at the time was absolutely unheard of. And the side set a record of conceding the least amount of goals in a Premier League season with 15. Ridiculous records, never going to be broken, sorry. They only lost 1 match the entire season as well. He won back-to-back Premier League titles and FA Cup, 2 League Cups during his first stint. He then left for 10 years for some holidays in Spain and Italy. Sounds lovely, Jose. Came back in 2014 only to win the league again. 10 years later, and after his league success in Real Madrid, it's just incredible what he came back to achieve at Chelsea. And Manchester United, he led the side, who had about as much footballing ability as a tin of tuna to a Europa League and League Cup double, and managed to finish second, which he still to this day says is the most impressive achievement of his career. Must have been that wine talking again. Maybe lay off the sauce, Jose. And while his time at Tottenham may have been about as successful as Joey Barton's managerial career, he still is regarded as one of the greatest ever managers to coach in the Premier League, and is an influence still felt in the modern game today. Number 3, Arsene Wenger, the Iron Man to Sir Alex's Thanos, the yin to his yang, the original disturber of the peace. When Arsene Wenger arrived, it sent shockwaves through the English football scene when he was appointed Arsenal manager in 1996 following the departure of Bruce Rioch, and he set about bringing about his own brand of football, which would change the course of Premier League history. He set about playing an attacking mentality style of football, which produced some of the most entertaining style of play and some of the greatest players the league has ever seen. Thierry Henry, Patrick Vieira, Freddie Ljungberg, Nicolas Anelka, Alexis Sanchez, Robin van Persie, among many, many more. They all reaped the rewards of Arsene Wenger's intricate and creative brand of football. And he came at a time when the league was becoming a one-horse race. I mean, just imagine the dark timeline of how different the history books would have been had Arsene Wenger not been in the league to disrupt Manchester United. I don't want to imagine it myself personally. I feel like that kind of world would smell of stale quavers and have a sort of Mad Max situation with Rooney driving the car. But nevertheless, Arsene Wenger's time at Arsenal was littered with incredible moments. 7 FA Cups, 7 Community Shields and 3 Premier League titles, one of which being the historic and unprecedented Invincibles title for going the whole league season unbeaten. Yes, people, I'm looking at you, Rory Jennings, will say they drew 12 games, including matches against Birmingham, Portsmouth, Bolton and Leicester, but it is still an incredible achievement for a man who changed the culture of not only Arsenal, but the course of Premier League history forever. Number 2, Pep Guardiola. I hate to admit it, because the man's given me more personal stress than a customer services advisor has for BT, but Pep Guardiola is undoubtedly one of the greatest managers to ever set foot in the Premier League. In terms of accomplishments, I mean, the list is longer than Joey Barton's blacklist of women. Us, Joey again, hello. But just to chalk a few off: first side to ever reach 100 points, second team to ever reach 3 Premier League titles in a row, first ever side to win the domestic treble, second English side to ever win the treble. I mean, the list goes on, and while Pep isn't number 1 on this list, his side is without a doubt the greatest side to have ever played in the Premier League. No team in the history of England, not Manchester United of 08-09, not Arsenal of 03-04, not Norwich of 1920, has ever struck fear into teams as much as Pep Guardiola's Man City has over the past near decade. The side beats teams before they even play them, and with historic Premier League players like Sergio Aguero, Kevin De Bruyne, David Silva, Vincent Kompany, Ederson, Ruben Diaz, Kyle Walker, all becoming some of the greatest Premier League players in history under him. I mean, it's hard to argue his position on this list. A true testament to a manager's ability is when rival fans will be happy when he leaves. And while Pep is one of those managers, he isn't quite number 1. No, that honour belongs to number 1, Sir Alex Ferguson. Shock, horror, gasp, fate. I'm going to give you 5 seconds right now just to process this shocking bit of information, and then I'll be right back with you. We all good? Anyway, yeah? Okay, back to it. Sir Alex Ferguson is without a doubt the greatest manager in Premier League history, and some may even argue in the history of football. And yes, while there is a discussion for Pep overtaking that title one day, no one can question what Sir Alex Ferguson did for the game of football, taking over Manchester United when they were struggling in 4th place and turning them into an unstoppable juggernaut of football history, winning 13 league titles, 5 FA Cups, 4 League Cups, 2 Champions Leagues, one of which is arguably the second greatest comeback in the history of the competition. Sorry, just let me zip up, my bias is showing again. And he produced world-class talent at a rate some could only dream of, including Roy Keane, Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes, Wayne Rooney, Ruud van Nistelrooy, Rio Ferdinand, Cristiano Ronaldo. The list goes on, and it's because of this that he's become the most decorated manager in football history, winning more trophies than anyone in the game. He was given time at the start of his Man United tenure to turn things around, and thanks to faith and trust, he took the club on a journey that only some could dream of. He turned the red side of Manchester into the greatest side in world football and dominated both the domestic and European stage during his time at the club. Right, I feel like I need to cleanse myself now of those 2 entries, but you can't argue with greatness as much as you'd like to. Anyway, that is the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to hit like and subscribe and leave a comment down below telling me what you think of the video, and I will see you all in the next one.